I don't know. Will say this with the caveat that I hope that no one cancels me for saying this. I'm just quoting something that's out there in the ether, and that is that
Hi, this is Kara, and you're watching Really Famous, where you get to know your favorite celebrities on a truly intimate level, because I was a therapist, and that's just how I roll. Now, right now, you are about to get to know Tim Daly on another level. This is my fourth talk with Tim, so we are very comfortable with each other and talk about like the real things that come up in life. Today, you will find out how Tim feels about everything from The Sopranos, David Chase, and New Jersey, to people who are mean, being famous, and Tim's family. One extra thing I want to tell you about before we get started is Tim and I are planning to do a live on-stage show, a brand new interview, a brand new talk. If you are in the New York City area, it is going to be coming up soon, and you can join us. You can be in the audience while Tim and I are on stage talking about this, that, and the other thing. If you'd like to get tickets, make sure you're on my special insiders list. You can sign up at reallyfamouspodcast.com, or if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you'll catch all of my announcements on when the live show will be and which other surprises I have in store for you. I look forward to connecting with you there. In the meantime, let's get started with the one and only Tim Daly.
I feel somewhat hopeful. No offense to you, but I just hope that the light at the end of the tunnel isn't New Jersey. that part of New Jersey, not your part. You know the part I'm talking about.
Are you talking about the Sopranos part? Are you talking
about that part?
The David Chase part?
I'm talking about the toxic chemical cesspool part.
Right, exactly. Because that opening scene of The Sopranos is like, I guess everybody thinks that's New Jersey. But that's not New Jersey, just to be fair.
I know. It's actually very smart on New Jersey's part to make that part of the coast that's right adjacent to one of the most populated areas in the United States so toxic and horrible, because it makes everyone think, I'm not going there. But if you go past that just a little ways, it is the Garden State after all.
It is. So just to be fair, I have a nice lawn.
I'm sure you do.
The dog runs around outside, chases the groundhog when it comes out of the woods. It's good.
Good. Okay, good.
But at the same time, it is a schlep every time I want to come into the city, and I really dislike that. So, we kind of went back and forth. Like, should we live in the city? Shouldn't we? We ended up not, but I don't know.
Well, I think you're doing okay.
I guess. Let's get back to New Jersey for a second.
Okay. Oh, boy.
So I was listening back to our old conversations yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And one of them, you were telling me about how David Chase, you left the audition, and you thought you bombed it, right?
That was for something totally different.
Right. It was a different project before The Sopranos.
Yes, that was the first time we met. His first directing gig, which was this remake of Alfred Hitchcock's Alfred Hitchcock had a show called Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Yeah, I remember it.
It was a half-hour anthology series, and they were remaking them at Universal, and David remade one called Enough Rope for Two.
I feel like I want to watch that episode.
You really don't.
Really?
Yeah, you really don't.
I actually introduced my son to the Alfred Hitchcock
really?
The show and the Twilight Zone and everything, but like recently during the quarantine. But anyway, I realized after you told me that story that Michael Imperioli, who we've talked about before, has the same story with him. He told me the same story, that he went in and he thought he just bombed the whole thing.
Well, this is what I have to tell you about David, who I had dinner with just before the pandemic. I hadn't seen him in a long time. It was great to see him, and I love and adore him and get him, which not everybody does. But I don't know. I will say this with the caveat that I hope that no one cancels me for saying this. I'm just quoting something that's out there in the ether, and that is that if you looked up resting bitch face in the encyclopedia, you'd see a picture of David Chase.
Yes.
I mean, he looks like someone just murdered his family. That's his normal face.
Right.
And so, so Michael and I had the same thing. Like, this guy hates me. He just hates me. And he just doesn't give anything away.
Right. So I talked about the RBF, the resting bitch face, in another interview. And I think I was trying to rename it because I didn't want to get canceled either. Because instead of bitch, though, it should be something better. It should be either gender Why is it a woman's face, right?
Well, listen,
but that's what it was named.
I'm old
Jerk,
and
resting jerk face.
yeah,
RJF.
resting douche face.
Yes.
Listen, I think that if it were me, everybody would just embrace it. Like the mailman would just be the mailman, no matter what sex, and whoever like brought you a drink on an airplane would be a stewardess, male or female. Like,
Stewardess.
it's like
that's like 30 years ago, though.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I try to measure people by if they're kind, compassionate, friendly, funny, and if they use the wrong words, I don't care.
I gotcha.
With obviously there are exceptions to that,
Right,
but
and no disrespect towards any
particular
right.
But if it's always been the thing about being an actor is that one of the things that you talk a lot about when you're training is the intent behind a line. So you can say to someone, "I love you," and you can mean, "I hate you." And so I think that a lot of times, I have a friend in LA, and if you read a transcript of our conversation, you would say, and said, "Who are these people?" You would say, "They're two people in a prison for the criminally insane who are probably, facing the death penalty." If you saw us say the exact same words in person, you would say, "These guys are crazy and they love each other."
Yeah.
I can't believe what they're saying to each other, but they clearly love each other. So
that's like texting. How you doesn't come through.
Yes, it's context, and that's another thing about this pandemic is that when you're with someone, you get so much information from their face, from their body language, from their pheromones or whatever, their whatever that is. I don't want to get too woo-woo, but a lot of times words out of context, seem a lot worse than they are if you were with people when they were talking.
Yeah. So you were saying about the mailman being the mailman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever noticed this? I noticed this recently. Have you ever seen a gas station attendant that's a woman?
No, I never have. I was a gas station attendant, by the way. I was.
I feel like I knew this already. That was one of your odd jobs when you were...
Yes, that's the one where I ended up running down Route 9, giving the guy the finger in the middle of traffic, rush hour traffic.
Wait, do I know this story?
Oh, I don't know.
Did you tell me the story already?
I don't know. I was I was 20. I was in my second year off from between high school and college, and I was living in this old Boy Scout camp in Sudbury, Massachusetts. It had no heat. It was freezing cold, and I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and pump gas. Now, you have to remember, this is before self-serve. So you're saying, "Good morning. How can I help you? Yeah, give me $5 of the regular. Check your oil," and blah, 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 and all that stuff. So you were checking people's oil. You were washing their windows every time. And so I was alone at 6 o'clock in the morning on this, road that fed Boston. And one morning I was running around like mad. It was packed because it was rush hour. And the thing that you hated was when someone came and said, "Give me $2.75 of the high test," because then you either had to watch really carefully or you had to run over and do something. But if you went over, it came out of your salary. So I was running around, and this guy said to me, "I'm going to have a little conversation with your boss." I said, "Why?" I said, "Well, you're dragging ass around here." And I was like, "Sir, I'm running around as fast as I can. I'm really sorry." He goes, "Oh, yeah, you're dragging ass. I'm going to make sure your boss knows about this." And he got in his car and started driving away. And I just blew a gasket. And I started running after him. And I was running down the middle of this 4-lane highway, your podcast people, but you imagine me giving him the finger, like holding it on the driver's side window, saying, "Fuck you, you asshole." Anyway, he was in a car, so he outran me, and I ran back to the gas station where the other people were standing around, and they actually gave me an ovation.
Oh,
they clapped. They were like, they were on my side because they all knew what a jerk that guy had been.
So that's so funny, and I wonder if he remembers that was you. You became famous, and he was like, "Oh my God, I think that was Tim Daly who ran me down."
I doubt it. I think he's in his own personal hell,
right?
Wherever he is.
I feel like it's so easy to be nice to people when you come upon them in places like that. Like, what's the trouble? I don't get why what is going on? I do, as a therapist, I know that there's something going on, probably that we don't know about. Like maybe he was having a bad day for some reason. Who knows what?
But why inflict it on other people?
Yeah, no good, no good, no good. It just seems so easy to be nice to me.
I completely agree. And also the result of being nice is that people are mostly really nice back. You know, if you smile at someone and say, hey, how you doing? They're more likely than not to smile back and say, I'm good. How you doing? You're fine. You know, even if it's not a big conversation, it just kind of breaks the barrier of, you know, whatever it is between human beings that keeps them from having conversation, you know, shyness, shame, you know, whatever, having a bad day.
Yeah, Spike Lee, I think of too. I think that's when Michael and I, we told each other these stories. When I met Spike Lee, it was that kind of thing where he had this. I was convinced he couldn't stand the sight of me and really wanted me out of his office like as soon as possible. I was interviewing him, and this was for a piece that I did back when I was writing for the Times, and it was supposed to be about his Sunday routine. So I'm asking him all these questions about his Sunday routine. One word answers. That's it. He is not interested in giving me anything. And then I kind of flipped it at a certain point, and I asked him about which movie he saw as a kid that really affected him the most, that stayed with him. And so we started talking about Bye Bye Birdie, and he got really into it, like really into it. And then he started asking me about me and my family and whatever. And then I guess it was okay. He started giving me longer answers, but I still didn't think that he liked me. And then I spoke to somebody who knows him later, and he said that kind of thing, that like, no.
That's kind of Spike. But if I would have known you were interviewing, I would have said, go to the Knicks, go right to the Knicks, and you'll get him going.
Yeah.
He'll get much more,
Do you know him?
animated. I do.
You do?
Yeah. He spent a lot of time with us at the Creative Coalition doing stuff.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So at the end of my interview with him, he gave me a little tour around his offices in Brooklyn, which was really cool. He has all this stuff there, like signed movie posters and like sports jerseys and stuff like that. Coolest stuff. Anyway, so I was told by his rep, he doesn't give everybody a tour, so you're okay. But I still, to this day, am like, he hates me. You'll have to ask him next time.
I'll ask him.
So anyway, tell me about what's happening with your with the fam.
With the fam?
Yeah. So your son is still in.
He's in L.A. He's
with your grandbaby. He's not a baby anymore.
No, he's two grandbabies.
You have two now.
Two, yeah. They're 4 and 2. Okay. And they're just the funniest, craziest little redheaded monster angels that you could possibly imagine. It's really funny because I am a total baby guy. I love them. They love me. Like when I was doing private practice, they had this baby that was supposed to be our baby. And when the baby was fussy, they would get rid of the mother and they would get rid of the baby nurse, and they would call me like, Tim, could you come and calm the baby down? I was like, sure. I'd come play with the baby, and the baby was like, good.
That's
so cute. That's kind of how I am. Sam is the same way. Emelyn is the same way. We're just,
so you're natural baby.
We're natural baby people.
And they like you.
Yes, they love me. That said, and this may be, I don't know. Everything's politically incorrect now, but 2 boys, I'm just going to tell you, holy God. I mean, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old with these 2 boys who are just crashing. And it's like, which one is breaking the most important thing? I'll run after that one and let the other one break whatever they're breaking over there, because it's like,
mayhem.
It's madness. And both of their grandmothers have said, we can no longer watch them both alone. There's no way.
That says a lot.
Now they're both charging her. And the little one, if he survives to adulthood, he is going to be the toughest motherfucker you've ever seen, because he is just brutalized by the dog, by his brother, he's just charging around, smacking his head and falling on the thing. And he broke his leg on the slide, and he just didn't even bother him. He's had a cast, but still running around. He's just like this little mug, and he's awesome.
That's so cute.
And the older brother is just, Owen is fantastic. So
they're similar personalities in a way, and they get along doing their mayhem together.
Yeah, I mean, once upon a time, you would have described them as all boy. They're just constantly in motion and, wrestling and tumbling and smashing and throwing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So Sam has been being the greatest dad on the face of the earth, and, going a little crazy because he was working a lot in 2019 and then came to a screeching halt. And his wife is, this brilliant businesswoman. She's the vice president of marketing for the Los Angeles Rams football team.
Oh, that's pretty big.
It's big, which
Yeah.
is also weird, though, because football was weird. There are no fans. So they're doing fine.
Yeah,
They're
that's
doing
good.
fine. They're just kind of waiting this out. And Emelyn, you'll see, she'll be here in a minute. She's like doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and she's fantastic.
So she's doing you've been doing things with her, right? Like I've seen you on social media a little bit, the two of you together.
You have?
Yeah, I thought you posted some things. Maybe it wasn't.
Well, I've been
recent.
posting stuff. She's been, she's a chef, and she's been posting these little, cooking videos and stuff. A chef among a lot of other things. I mean, she's kind of a freak because anything that she tries, she's excellent at. So, she's a trained chef, like a Michelin quality chef. She speaks 5 languages fluently. She's a trained, she's a yoga instructor, and she's been a comedian and an actress. She was on Madam Secretary a few times, and so I don't know.
She's gifted.
She's gifted, which
She's
is
yeah.
a curse.
It's a curse.
She's
It
cursed
is.
with the
Yeah.
gift of like brilliance
Yeah.
because she gets her eye on something. She thinks, "I want to try that." She masters it. She becomes an expert, and then she's like, okay, now what?"
So was she really smart? Like growing up, did you know this about her, that she was multi?
I knew she was
talented and
really,
everything?
really smart because she was so incredibly verbal.
Mm-hmm.
But she was also, she wasn't into school. Like school started. She started school too young. That was on me. That was my fault. But she would go out into the hallway. She would ask to go to the bathroom and go in the hallway. And I remember the headmaster of this school she went to in LA said to me, I was walking down the hallway and Emelyn was standing there looking out the window. And I said, "Hey, Emelyn, what are you doing?" She said, "Oh, I was just wondering whether the universe has a limit or if it goes on forever." He was like, "What? You're in first grade. Get back in class and learn how to read." Jesus Christ. So she was already thinking about deep, deep things at a very young age.
I recognize that because I have one like that.
Yeah.
And that is what you see when they're younger, right? And they are super verbal, and they're thinking about the bigger things that like you don't contemplate until you're 80 or something like that.
And then she became a really great student,
Mm-hmm.
went to Columbia and
That's
learned all
great.
this language, all that other stuff. So
Yeah, she was here another time. I think she was leaving when I was arriving or something. She had a bike inside
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
Yeah, so that was good stuff. And how's Taya?
Taya's perfect. I mean, she's fabulous. I don't, I'm not allowed to talk about her too much.
I know. I always feel like I feel like I shouldn't even ask you, but I know that people also want to know. People are curious about you and her and your relationship. I've told you this before. You have serious fans. Like very
four of them.
devoted.
Four of them,
No,
but
like,
they're devoted.
I'm just going to tell you. I can see because
Those
I've had a
4
lot
people
of
are really devoted to me.
No, it's not 4. I've had a lot of people on the show, over 100, and I can tell you that there are a few that come to the surface for me that I can see that your fans are really above and beyond, like really.
Oh, that's sweet.
And you're one of them.
Well, this is what I'll say, for the fans, just so they don't worry.
Okay.
And that is that our relationship in real life is much better than it is on the show, and it was pretty good on the show, so we're okay.
That is good because I think that they look at the characters on the show as what they aspire to.
It's an aspirational couple.
It is an aspirational couple.
And, we're real people. Like I mean, the thing about, I think I told you the story about when we were shooting the pilot. Did I tell you about so we're shooting the pilot of Madam Secretary, and we went to the same high school, right? This little school in Vermont called the Putney School.
You did tell me that, yeah.
So we're shooting the pilot. We're doing a dinner scene, and dinner scenes are horrific because you're passing food, you're serving it. There's cameras everywhere, and you have to go around a table, and then when you cut, you have to reset all this stuff. You have to put the food back and put the fork back where it was, and put your napkin, all that stuff. So it can be tedious. And so we did a take this dinner scene, and I am someone that really likes acting. The other stuff I can do without, sitting in the trailer, hair and makeup, waiting for them to light, blah, blah, blah. So rather than wait around, I mean, I could have sat back, crossed my arms and said, "Okay, prop people, put my fork back," and, blah, blah, blah. I don't do that. I want to get to the point where we can start acting again. So I fold up my napkin, I put the fork, I scrape the mashed potatoes back in the thing. I look across the table, and there's Taya doing all the same things. She's saying, "Hey, put that over here. That goes here." And I was like, "That's a cool girl. Like she's a no bullshitter. She's here to do this acting work also. She's not thinking about her position or her anything like that." So
right.
I don't know why I told you that story.
No, because that illustrates who the type of person that she is in real life, right?
Yeah.
Which also she's aspirational. Her character was aspirational on the show, but in real life she is too. Plus she's got done a lot of good things, just like you, in real life for society as a whole.
Yeah, she's a good person, good human being.
Yeah, so I think it's nice that they look up to you in that way.
That's nice. That's
nice. I mean, it's good. It's better that than people who are like doing nothing really great for the world.
Yeah, it's that thing, I mean, I think actors will always have this, or some actors will have this in their head, unless they're total narcissists, they won't think about it. But is it, I mean, a lot of the entertainment viewing public is attracted to the bad boy, the outlaw, the naughty girl, that thing that's sort of edgy and all that. And that's fine, except if you are that person in real life, I mean, it's exhausting, and it's not fun for anybody. Nobody wants to be really, or for very long, with like a drunken, abusive, crazy person. And eventually, I think that catches up with you. And it's always been my contention that you can be a true artist and also be a decent human being. You don't have to be a tragic, addicted, abusive asshole. You just don't.
Of course not. Right. Why would you?
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you a question about the narcissist thing, but let me ask for the fans. Mm-hmm. I need them to understand that I have asked you if Taya would like to do the show like you're doing it.
There's no possible way. She'll never do it. I say that with I'm not putting any judgment on that. It's just, I sincerely doubt it, because Taya hates doing any sort of interview or publicity with a white hot burning passion of 1,000 suns. And no one believes that she hates it, because whenever she does an interview or a talk show or something, she's so funny and smart and charming. They're like, you obviously you love it. But they don't see her beforehand, like throwing up and going insane and like, wanting to, cry in the corner. Right. So I'm just saying, if she can avoid it, she will. If she's in prison and you have to, one of her, part of her sentence is that she has to be interviewed by you, then she'll do it.
Right. So I just want everybody to know, because I'm not, on the one hand, I don't want to continue to ask you to ask her to do something that she would never want to do. But I need everybody to understand. I've tried. It's not. You tried. It is what it is.
It's just not happening. That's what it is.
I like actually doing interviews. I mean, obviously I like being the interviewer, but I even enjoy being on the other side of it. And I know it's either you like it or you don't, or maybe who even cares or whatever. But I think it can be fun, but it is that thing that you have to like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you feel about it?
I feel that it depends. I mean, if I feel like I'm actually having a conversation with someone, then I love it. Stephen Colbert is the best interviewer. No offense, but he's one of the best interviewers I've ever had, because he's not out to score points. He's not out to do anything that makes you seem dumb, or he just wants you to succeed, and he has a real conversation with you, and he's funny, and he lets you be funny. So that's really fun. People like, I'm just going to say this, but Jay Leno, oh my God, what an asshole. Jesus.
How?
Oh, just not engaged with you, just looking at, and on some of these, what people don't understand about talk shows is that you have what's called a pre-interview, where they ask you questions and you maybe tell them some stories. And then when you're in the actual interview, they say, so I hear you had a little rough time with your lawnmower the other day, and you're expected to tell the exact story that you told in the pre-interview. So it's not it's like
It's not real at all.
it's not real.
Yeah.
It's like reality TV.
Yeah.
It's scripted reality, which doesn't exist. And I'm much better. Like Craig Ferguson, I love going on Craig Ferguson's show because he was a madman, and I never knew what we were going to talk about. And it was probably not very entertaining because we would crack each other up so much that we would end up just holding our guts, laughing at each other. But it was really fun for me because it was just like having a wacky conversation.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing, is if they're engaged or not.
Yeah.
And I think it's harder for the late night shows because they have you for 7 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And they want everything to go exactly this way. It's the opposite of what I do. It's like everything has to be set and entertaining. But, for me, as you know,
it can be boring like me. Nice and boring and long and rambling.
No, relax and talking about we're like just hanging out, like two people, like friends who are just talking about things. Like whatever. One thing leads to another. That's how real conversations go.
Right.
So that's how I like to do it. I don't think that's the norm, I guess. So I feel like I get that. But so what did Jay Leno do? He wanted you to do this one thing ahead of time.
I don't want to get into it. I just didn't have a good. I did his show 6-7 times because I was on NBC. This is back in the Wings days, and he would even call me up and say, "Hey, can you do me a favor? We had a guest fall out, and we'd have a skit. Will you do it?" And I was very, I thought generous to him, and I asked him if I could come on his show to promote something I was doing, and he was like, "No." I did not him directly, but his bookers. And that hurt my feelings.
Of course, but was he involved in it, or was it just his bookers?
I don't know.
Who knows? But
who knows?
I was listening to a podcast a couple weeks ago. Howie Mandel was the guest. I don't remember what podcast it was, but Howie Mandel was talking about being on these shows, and so he was a regular on with Johnny Carson, and then Johnny Carson asked him, or I guess the booker asked him to come last minute because somebody had dropped out or couldn't make it, and so he was in the middle of filming. He didn't really have time to prepare anything. He went in and had some dumb thing that he tried to do, and Johnny didn't like it, and he basically sent him away and never let him come back on the show. That was it, after he had come a million times on the show and been like one of Johnny's people. And then later he said the same thing happened with Letterman, in that he went to Letterman, and this was his bit. Letterman says, "So, how you doing, Howie?" And Howie said something like, "Oh, it's really good to be in New York. I'm happy to be here. My brother is here," something like that. "Is it okay if I say hi to my brother?" And Letterman's like, yeah, sure, go say hi. So he says, "Okay." And he gets up and he leaves to go say hi to his brother. And he never comes back. I'm cracking up. Like, that is the funniest bit. But I guess Letterman didn't think it was so funny because they were like, "Now what do we do?"
Fill that 7 minutes with something.
Exactly. Are there a lot of narcissists in the entertainment industry?
Oh yeah, the ratio of damaged people with personality disorders or drug habits or sexual disorders or whatever it is the same throughout society.
Okay. But
in the entertainment business, it's spotlighted because people are in the public eye. So I don't think if you were, I think if you went to, let's say, an Amazon warehouse, where there were 3,000 employees, maybe, 6-10% of them would have some problem. They'd be a narcissist, or they'd be abusive, or they'd be an alcoholic, or they'd be, something. But not everybody is going to know about that. But the 6 to 10% of actors who we know about who are that way get a lot of press, and I think that the public has become sort of primed to be voyeuristic in seeing actors self-immolate. It's sort of a hobby of a lot of times the press and a lot of times the public, seeing someone who goes really high and then they flame out for whatever reason. And so it gets a lot more airtime when you're in the public eye.
Right. I'm thinking of Britney Spears. Did you see that? Have you heard about all the stuff going on with her lately?
No, I barely know who she is.
I know, and I didn't really either. Like, she's a little younger than my generation. I guess I don't know how old she is, but she's been in the news lately because she was having these basically breakdowns, and her father took over her estate, basically her life. Legally, he has like full control over her now, and he has for years. I just watched a documentary about it the other day. It was really sad, and that's part of it though, is that everybody likes to see somebody who's successful really go through, kind of come down off of that pedestal. And it's really, I feel so bad for anybody who goes through that, especially if it's mental illness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's terrible. The other thing is, what I've realized is, I could sit around and kind of, bitch or whine about the fact that my career wasn't bigger, I wasn't a bigger movie star or whatever it was. But I got to tell you, my level of celebrity, whatever that is okay, pretty much right. Because it's good. I like to say it's good for things that you sit on or lie down on, like hotel rooms, hospitals, restaurants. I can always get in. That's great. But I can also still, go to the deli and get a quart of milk without anybody bothering me. But I have known people who have become hugely famous, as Britney Spears was, and they oftentimes get removed from that impulse to tell human stories, their relationship with people that made them so popular to begin with. So suddenly someone who understood, the truck driver over there because they had worked a job or done something, suddenly they're in this gilded cage where they can't go anyplace. They can't see anyone. So they find themselves, 20 years in, on private jets, on private islands, in, getting special treatment, and they lose that connection with people who are actually out there in the world trying to get through life. And I think it changes their work, and it also makes them go insane.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Because it's all about really human connections. Everything is, really.
Yeah.
Right? It's in whatever kind of connection it is, but it's all about that. And the more isolated you are, the harder it is to really have those authentic interactions or observations or whatever.
Yeah, and there's also, when you get that, massively famous, I think you probably rightfully get a little suspicious, a little paranoid, because you don't know why people are being so nice to you or wanting to spend time with you. Do they really like you, or they just want a little of the sheen to rub off on them?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that I can't imagine that. That does seem hard. But every level of fame, I would feel like you would have to think about that to some degree, relatively.
A little bit, but not at my level.
You have to think about that, I feel like, right?
Yeah, not that much.
Not that much?
No.
Or have you just figured it out by now?
I think I've figured it out, but, a lot of people don't know who I am. I mean, we've talked about this. Even people who have watched and been big fans of mine, when they meet me, they have no idea who I am. And until they find out, and then they might like blush a little bit. But by that time, I've helped them like carry something up the stairs or, help them change the tire on their truck. And they're like, oh, this is just a guy.
Right. So they don't have any idea of who you are. You mean that literally.
Literally.
But at first I thought you were talking about figuratively, because I think that's true too, though, to some degree.
Well, yeah, but
people project.
I think I told you the story though.
In the plane.
The plane where people are like,
it's my favorite show.
It's my favorite show. Who do you play? It's like, so I'm able to just blend into the scenery.
I wonder too, like, what about people who, I'm going to tell you from my perspective, like, I always worry that my guest, so you're my guest, right, on the show, is going to, like, I always like to point out what I like about them or whatever. So this is what I do, who I am. But I always feel like that celebrity thing, I wonder, I don't want it to seem like I'm fangirling, you know what I mean? Or trying to be, like you're saying, wanting to get some of that sheen or whatever it is. I'm always aware of that. So I don't even know what my point was. But I do feel like, I can't imagine that. I'm wondering how often do you think about those things? You know what I mean?
Hardly ever. I mean,
Yeah, but that's also your personality.
It is. Look, the thing is that, I do. This is what I do think about. I spend a lot of time in my life being engaged in my life, right? Like I plant a garden. I'm out there and I'm working in the garden, and I sit around and play guitar, and I hang my own pictures, and I build stuff, and the other day I took my chop saw and put on the metal blade and cut off the legs of this table that I made out of speed rail because I wanted it to now be a lower height. And so I'm doing stuff that has to do with the real stuff that has to do with my life. And if I didn't do that, maybe I could be schmoozing people and making phone calls and, thinking about myself and my career and how to, manipulate and who do I meet and all that stuff. And, trying to schmooze and go to parties. I just don't like it. I would be lying if I said that doesn't work. I know.
Oh, it does work?
Oh God, yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, some people are very good at it. Well, if you're good at it, it works very well.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, sure.
You get jobs that way?
Oh yeah, because if you go and schmooze the right people and make an impression on them, but that's a performance, and I like to leave my performance for the sound stage or for the stage or for for that. I don't like to perform in real life. So if I walk into a fancy Hollywood party, I'm not like a shark that has some kind of sonar about who is the most important person in the room and let me go and talk to them. I'm just hanging out. And because of that, I think, I'm not like some people. Well, my son, Sam, for instance, whenever I go to any sort of party or event with Sam, like say we're at Sundance together, we go to a party. So we walk in, we introduce ourselves to someone, and somebody says like, "Oh, you're Tim Daly's son. Oh, really nice to meet you." 20 minutes later, someone says to me like, "Oh, you're Sam Daly's dad." Like Sam is so charming that he immediately gets top billing. Right?
Okay.
Because he's just really gregarious and friendly, and I'm shy. You never know it, but I am shy, and so I'm more reserved, and it takes time for people to decide whether or not I'm interesting. It's not like I'm interesting from the second I walk into a room.
Right. So you're not like overtly interesting, but I find you very interesting.
Well, thank you.
Why wouldn't you be? I mean, you are interesting. It's just I don't think it's just me. As you're talking about things, you're a good storyteller as well, which I find that to be tricky. Not everybody can do that.
That's my job.
A verbal storyteller.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Right? Because is a verbal storyteller your job? Because there are a lot of actors who aren't able to tell stories in the way that you do that are very entertaining and detailed and however it is. I'm not sure what the key to a good story is. You probably do, but not everybody has that gift.
I mean, maybe it's to lie just enough so that the story is better than it actually is.
My dad is a great storyteller, and we will sit around the dining room table, and he will tell with my kids, my husband and my mom will all be around the table, and he will have us dying, and he'll be telling stories for like, how did all these things happen to him in life? Like he has more stories than any of us.
Well, the thing is, memory is a very interesting thing because it's really natural for people to embellish it. If they have a story that they've lived through in their life, over time, it can be adjusted a little bit to make it a little funnier, a little more suspenseful, a little more intriguing. And I am totally guilty of that. There's a story that I've been telling for decades in my family. And a few years ago, when my eldest sister was still alive, I was with my three sisters, and I was telling this story to someone. We were at a dinner party or something. And my sisters looked at me and they said, "Timmy, you weren't born when that happened."
Yeah, you told me this story.
I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And they said, "You were not even born." And I swear to God, I could take a lie detector test and I would pass. But I had inserted myself into something that I wasn't alive to know. So.
Well, that's why witness testimony is usually not that reliable.
Yeah, eyewitnesses are the worst.
Exactly.
They're the worst.
But you do, but then I guess after it happens year after year after year, and you tell that story, that is hilarious. So that you must have been shocked, like cannot even be true. I know this story.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm still telling it as though I'm there. I'm not giving up on it. Yeah, why not? It's a good story.
But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I need to pick up some of these tricks that my dad is doing because he entertains us endlessly. And I know that he's embellishing too. I'm sure that there's like an embellishment here and embellishment there. But they're based on the actual thing that happened. Mm-hmm. So in some way too, I'm like, well, maybe some of these things did happen. You know what I mean? They did happen to some degree. They started the story, and then he created a better story out of it.
Exactly. And that's totally natural. It's a human trait.
So storytelling. I'm gonna segue with what are you watching on TV these days? Do you have any good? Because you watch some good TV. I think we've talked about some things before that.
Yes. I've sort of used up TV at this point. Oh. Because of COVID, it's like there's nothing I haven't watched.
Oh, okay. So what are the good things?
Let me see. What did I love? Well, there's some movies. The Mauritanian, I love. Basically, that guy, that performance was so good. That lead guy.
I don't even know what you're talking about. What is that?
The Mauritanian. It's a movie with Jodie Foster.
Oh, okay.
About a guy who's in Guantanamo.
Okay.
He's fantastic. Sound of Metal,
I
really
just saw that.
really good movie. The guy that wrote and directed that went to Putney School also, where Tay and I went. He hasn't called me to ask me if I've been in any of his movies, but he's made a really great movie.
Is this his first really great movie or no?
I don't know. I don't know that much about him. I just found out afterwards. I guess someone from my school said, congratulations to someone from the class of whatever it was.
Riz Ahmed?
Yeah.
So good.
He's really good. Really good.
That's really,
What else did I watch?
Did you watch Nomadland?
Yes, I loved it. My son hated it, but I loved it. The only thing is that what I really loved was the people who weren't actors.
Same.
I mean,
yes.
And it's interesting because clearly they just shot it sort of like a documentary and just kept talking to those people. And when they told their own stories, their real stories, it was so compelling because they were just speaking from the heart. They had no. Mm-hmm. They had not gotten to a place where they were self-conscious or saying lines. They were just talking about stuff. I thought it was, used really beautifully.
Same. I felt like the real people in there, it was really made the whole thing.
They were the best, yeah.
They were the best. And you did feel like you were watching a documentary, except you were realizing like, oh wait, this is Frances McDormand.
Listen, I like Frances McDormand and I like David Strathairn, but I didn't need them. I mean, they were a little bit distracting almost.
Yeah,
because it's
I feel you, yeah.
I don't want to see action. I want to get back to these people I've never seen.
They were everything. I loved that. I didn't love the movie, but I did love that part of it. But I think the reason I didn't love it is because it felt very melancholy to me. Like I was really sad and I felt very lonely for everybody throughout it. And then at the end, I just felt like very blue. And that's part of what a movie, should be able to do to you.
Yeah.
So I guess it worked. Okay, so movies, TV. Are you not thinking of any of the TV shows you watch series? Did you ever watch Gomorrah? I talk about it all the time.
No.
Gomorrah?
No. What is that? Is that Patty? No, that's Escape from Ghana.
Oh, Escape from Dannemora. I like that too.
Yeah.
Patty's
Patricia Arquette. Amazing.
Patty. Yes, she was incredible in that. Holy cow!
She's doing really good work these days.
I love when I see people as they get older really just coming into themselves so beautifully. She's one of them.
That's what I hope for myself.
And that's what's happening for you.
I hope so. If I ever work again, we'll see.
Are you going to work again? I asked you this last time.
Probably not. I mean, I don't think there's much of a chance. But, I
tend to disagree. We'll see. We'll have to see how it plays out. No, last time I asked you that I think you were saying, maybe this was a different conversation. You want to be in a sitcom again. This was a while back. Do you still feel like that?
I need to do comedy.
You do need to do comedy.
I need to do comedy.
Get into comedy then.
I've got something brewing that I'll talk to you about if it gets going. But the thing that my worry about doing comedy is that my taste in comedy is obsolete. That's my worry. Because so much of the comedy I see on television is so bald. I mean, it's like being hit in the head with a sledgehammer by jokes.
Okay, so like what then?
Just turn anything on CBS. Just turn on CBS.
You're talking about network TV.
Yeah, anything. It's just laugh tracks. I can't. It's exhausting.
There has to be more other types though.
Oh, there.
Is this the type that you're?
No. This would not be a network thing. But the kind of comedy that I like, and this is interesting because it is network, is stuff like I Love Lucy. And the thing that's great about Lucille Ball and everyone in that show is that there's this passionate innocence about whatever they do. Lucy wants to be in that show. And that's the reality of her behavior. And she will do anything to get on that stage. You know, she'll dress him in a costume, and she believes it so wholeheartedly that it's hilarious, because she's not winking at the audience. There's no like, aren't I funny or cute? She's just in that moment being innocently desperate to do whatever she's doing. And that's the kind of comedy I like, where people are not letting you know that they're being funny. They're just in the Wings was very much like that.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, what else since Lucy? So Wings. What now?
Oh geez, I haven't seen a good comedy on TV.
It's so much harder to find a good comedy.
Veep is hilarious.
Veep. Oh my
Veep
God.
is hilarious. I mean, and that's a good example, I think, because again, it's this woman who is there's no winking, right? Nobody's winking at the audience and saying, "Aren't I clever? Aren't I funny?" Mm-hmm. They're just believing that they're they have a goal and they're going to get it any way they can, and comedy ensues.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I feel that. It's funny. I would never compare. I would never put I Love Lucy and Veep in the same category, though.
Well, listen, they're very, very different shows. I'm not going to do that Hollywood thing of like, I Love Lucy meets Veep. They're uniquely unique shows.
So you're getting ready to do. You can't tell me anything about this. You'll tell me after.
No, I'll tell you when it.
So you are going to work again, then, it seems, sooner than we think.
Listen, no, I don't know. I mean, this is something I'm developing, and.
So you're developing it. So you're producing it.
Yes.
So you're not just going to star in it.
No.
So I do find it very hard to find good comedy. Mm-hmm. It's a lot harder, I think.
Comedy this is what people don't understand. A lot of the general public doesn't understand. Comedy is so much harder than drama. Drama is easy. Scream and yell and retch and, and to me, that's very cathartic. It's like, it's like doing therapy. But I think that's why a lot of comedians are driven insane and so angry. When you are doing a sitcom, I remember this from Wings very clearly, and you know that something is really funny, and it's been funny in rehearsal, it's been funny all week long, and you do it in front of the audience and it bombs, it will bore itself into your heart and rip you to shreds. Like, why didn't I get that fucking laugh? God damn it, I know it's funny. I had it and I lost it. It's just, it drives you insane.
So you think it's you and not the writing?
Well, a lot of times it is you. There's this very famous story about Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne, who you're way too young. They were the first couple of the American theater. This is back in like the 40s.
The Lunt Theater.
Yes.
Lunt Fontanne Theater.
Lunt Fontanne Theater, yes. Alfred Lunt, Lynn Fontanne. They traveled the United States. They were huge stars in the theater. My dad actually worked for them. And so the story is that Alfred Lunt had this line where he said, darling, please pass the tea. And he would get a huge laugh. I don't know this how it was constructed in this play. And they were on tour. They were doing this, 8 times a week all over the country. And suddenly the laugh went away. And it was driving him insane. And he was depressed. He couldn't sleep. And he would say, darling, please pass the tea. Nothing. It was bombing. And so he finally went to Lynn Fontanne and said, what is wrong? How come I can't get a laugh? And she said, darling, you're asking for a laugh. Just ask for the cup of tea. And that's how fine it is, right? It's gossamer. It's a feather. And comedy is very tricky because if you lean on it just too hard, it falls out of the bottom and dies. So, not everybody can do it. There are a lot of great actors that cannot do comedy.
Yeah, I have heard that from people before, that drama is so much easier. Not necessarily easy, but comedy, it's harder to do the comedy.
A lot of comedy is mathematical also. I mean, I remember on Wings, I think all of us, our comedy chops got really honed. So we would have a guest star, and I'd be sitting at the counter and, with a guest actor, and they'd be like, God, this, I know this is funny. I just don't know what to do. And I would literally say, stir your coffee, then put the spoon in the saucer, and then say the line. And they would do it and get a huge laugh. Or like count to 3 after you do this, and then say the line. You go, and it's
like a time. So
it's
timing.
a timing. It's timing.
It's musical also.
It's musical.
Way, right?
It's just, it's really interesting because it's sort of scientific.
Oh, that is interesting. So I feel Beef was like that.
Yeah.
It was musical, and there was a lot of timing in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it got better and better and better as well. And I guess everybody does get better and better. But you also need to be funny in the first place.
Right.
The material also needs to be funny.
Well, sure.
The writing, right?
Sure. I mean, and this is the problem of a lot of writing now is that, I sometimes help Sam with auditions for comedies, and I'll see this note saying like, we really want to see the funny. And what does that mean? It's like, write something funny and you'll see it. But what are you asking
That's funny.
somebody to do?
Right.
You know?
What
we
does
want
that
to see
mean?
the funny. It's like what are you supposed to do? Like jump around? I mean, there's a script. There's a lot. I mean, what are you asking for?
But I really feel like it's the opposite. I don't know acting at all, but I know good TV and good movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's like when it's not the funny almost is when it's funnier, right? It's almost like the people in Nomadland, the real people, when they're just being the people or doing the thing. I have no idea about what I'm talking about, but I just feel like sometimes that is the funnier, rather than just going for the joke.
Well, that's part of what I'm talking about. If you are aware of the joke, you'll kill it, in my opinion. The Office is a great example. There's Steve Carell, who's completely in that character, doing these absurd things, saying the most outrageous stuff that if he winked at all and let the audience know that he was being funny, it would kill it.
Of course. Because he was Lucy.
He was Lucy. He was the guy that, was just trying to get his bonehead scheme through, and he believed in it, and it was beautiful. That whole that ensemble was fantastic.
So I find that it's maybe easier to find things that are a combination of drama and comedy, easier than just a straight up comedy these days. So like you'll see a drama that's also really funny, like did you see Call My Agent on Netflix?
Yes. Very
that
funny.
is a good example.
Yeah.
Like you can crack up watching it,
Yeah.
but it's not a straight up comedy. I don't really think. Is it? Do you think of that as a comedy?
Well, I do, because I don't think of comedies as a script where every 15 seconds there's a punchline. That to me, I get so bored and exhausted by that.
That's the current sitcom on the network TV.
It's just it's executives who should be reading pie charts, or like on Wall Street, who are panicked that it's not funny if there's not a joke or something that appears to be a joke every 15 or 20 seconds. And it doesn't work because there's no setup. Comedy is much better if it's set up by something, and then there's tension, right? It's like again, it's like music. It builds to something, and then boom, you get the joke and you get a release. But if it's constant release, joke, then you just get bludgeoned by it and exhausted. Oh, so listen, there's something I want to say on your podcast.
Please.
We're talking about, the entertainment business in the modern world. And this thing has happened where actors of every description are being asked to audition by themselves on an iPhone.
I hate to tell you this, but you already told this story on my
podcast.
Have? Yeah, but you're welcome to tell it again, because not everybody will have listened to that one.
Oh my God.
I do remember that you said that, and that's why I was thinking to myself, I'm bringing my iPhone today for Tim, and Tim does not like the iPhone for auditions, so he's not going to like it.
It's the most ridiculous thing ever. If you're any kind of director,
right?
Don't you want to see an actor and get a vibe from them, see if they're an asshole or a nice person? Don't you want to give them some stuff to see if they can alter their performance? It's so anti-creative. It's unbelievable.
I think it's that whole efficiency thing, right? Is it that everything has to be efficient now?
But it's so inefficient.
Right.
I mean, because you don't know what you're getting. You're getting some little, iPhone movie. It's just stupid. You're getting a look, and you're not getting someone who maybe has a lot of artistic integrity and is able to come up with something amazing if they're given a few suggestions about the way that the part might go. And I work with Sam a lot in these auditions, and I am just astounded by his talent. But it needs a director. It needs someone to draw him out and say, let's try it this way, let's try it that way. And seeing how he's able to adjust, that to me is like, okay, that's someone who I want to work with. That's someone who I want to see, someone who can try things in a different way and take suggestions and make it work, as opposed to just, this is it. Here's my iPhone thing, and this is the finished product.
That does make a lot of sense, because it is that interaction, and it's not just that you see something different, but then you can see how he would be in the real situation, because that's not the real situation.
Also, there are plenty of people, not just actors, but there are plenty of people who, life is just too short. You just get a vibe. You're like, I don't want to be in the room with this person. And you don't know that unless you're actually in the room with them.
Right. And then the hours you spend in the room.
Like, oh God, why did we hire this asshole? Jesus Christ,
Also, I feel like that would be so hard to do. Like, at least you're working on it with Sam. So are you there with him doing it? Like,
no, we're doing it on Zoom.
Oh, you are doing it on
Zoom.
Which is still not.
Still sucks.
Because I think a lot of actors end up doing it like in their closet or something like that, right?
That's what everybody does.
That's so hard to act for the camera.
So you're being asked to be your own, director of photography, your own, camera operator.
Well, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
And I already told you how poorly that works just for this. So I get that. You should be doing what you're good at, and other people should be doing the things that you're not.
Exactly.
It's a collaboration.
Yeah.
But you don't do like tapings of yourself anymore, do you? Does anybody ever ask you to put something on tape?
I would love to audition for something. I feel like, the bummer about having been around for 40 years is that everyone thinks they've seen everything I can do, and they haven't. I assure you they haven't. I've done some stuff in the theater that people are like, wow, I've never seen that before. But that's, 4,000 people saw it, not 4 million. And so I would love to audition for things, but no one's asking.
Nobody's asking you? So do they offer, do you get parts that are offered to you, or is it just like crickets? Like, what are you saying?
Pretty much crickets.
Crickets.
I did do a movie in October that will either, if anybody sees it, will either revitalize my career or end it once and for all.
What is it?
It's a movie called The Sixth Reel. It's written and directed by Charles Bush and Carell Andrews. And they asked me to play this part, and I could tell that what they wanted me to do was Henry McCord. It was a college professor who was a professor of film history and, sort of Tweedy and blah, blah, blah. And I just wasn't interested in doing that because I played Henry McCord for 6 years. So I turned him into a sexually ambiguous, sort of predatory English man.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah. I mean, it'll either be really fun or people will go like, whoa, he really just completely blew it. But I swung for the fences, so we'll see. And maybe it'll be good.
Well, what did the director tell you? Did you get some
They
feedback?
loved it. They liked it.
So I feel like it could be fun.
So
when does it come out?
I have no idea.
It'll be a while.
It's a tiny little movie, and they have to find a distributor. And I'm sure it will find a place because it's just a screwball. It's like a 40 screwball comedy. It's very funny, and hopefully.
So they came to you with that then? They were looking for a Henry McCord type or whatever?
Well, they didn't say that, but that was when I read the part. I was like, oh, I see why they would offer this to me. And I said, what about this? And they to their credit, they were incredibly supportive and creative. So we got to really play around, and that was fun.
So you would, if you could, then just work, not only work like a workaholic, but you would really like to be acting like all the time. Really,
I like to act a lot, yeah.
And in different ways.
Listen, the thing is, I'm going to be very honest here, and I'm sure I'm going to get a ton of shit for it, but I'm a character actor, and I'm in a leading man's body, and I'm a little too pretty. I'm just being honest about myself, having looked in the mirror for 65 fucking years. This is what I see. And so it's very difficult for someone to cast me as a bus driver. It's very easy for someone to cast me as an asshole lawyer or an asshole stockbroker, or something that seems kind of patriarchal and old school and white power structure ish guy. And I'm not interested in that so much, with certain exceptions.
Yeah.
But I'm better as a character actor than I am as a leading man, much better. But I'm sort of hamstrung by the way I look. So it's this weird kind of thing where, sometimes I wonder, would people, I think I'd be a great bus driver, but would people believe me as a bus driver? Because I, have this sort of all-American boy good looks kind of thing going. That's why something like, what David Chase wrote for me on The Sopranos was perfect, because it was a guy who could appear to be sort of in the mainstream normal, working writer who was totally fucked up. And so, my appearance didn't get in the way of my creating a unique character.
So more things like that then would work for you.
Yeah, not to saying it has to be a drug-addled, gambling addicted maniac, but yeah.
But plus, you're aging like exceptionally well too. All right,
Listen,
like as you're getting older, you look really good.
Well, thank you. I'm a little bummed by it because I don't want to finally get old enough to play old guys and then kick the bucket. I just want to. I got to start like not wearing sunblock or doing something. I'd like to get craggy and be useful while I can still walk around without crutches.
It's a rough life, Tim. I feel for you. That was Tim Daly. If you want tickets to the live show, don't forget to join my Insiders group. There's a link in the description below. And please follow me on Instagram and Twitter, where I am releasing more details and information. Thanks for watching. I'm Kara. This is Really Famous. Comment. Tell me something. Tell me who you are. Introduce yourself. I'd love to get to know you, and I appreciate you watching. See you next time.